Te Tai o Poutini is the largest region by size in Aotearoa, but home to less than 1% of our population. It's a rugged land, unforgiving, wild and unpredictable. A place where great fortunes have been made and even greater hardships endured.
There's a new burger van that's just opened in town. When they first got here, they were like, man, where's all the Māoris? There are no Māoris here. And then as soon as they opened their burger van, oh no, there they are. When I was a little kid, my taonui, she was still alive, my great-grandmother. Our mehana whānau, we were tight. Every other weekend we were having big whānau gatherings. Come whitebait season, our whole whānau was out there, all 150 of us. Gotta wait for that to burn down, see all those irons up on the top. Yep, they're scattered all the way through the fire. So we gotta wait for those to get glowing red hot, and then we'll put all the irons into here, and then we'll chuck all our kai on top. But then, yeah, just as the years have gone on and all our older ones have started to drop off and die, I think we've just sort of got a little bit disconnected from each other. It's important that we come back together, mainly for these ones here. Because, you know, a lot of us have all got kids, they all go to school together, but don't realise how closely related they are. Most of us, we all come from the same three ancestors, same three tūpuna. It's important that we tell them, teach them. That's your cousin.
In the years immediately following the Arohura deed of purchase, the changes to the coast were swift and severe. Within just a few years, the gold rush brought in tens of thousands of new settlers, and new towns sprang up overnight. But with each new settlement came new trouble. And for mana whenua already banished from their ancestral lands and hard hit by flu and measles epidemics, the sudden onslaught of a new culture was devastating.
This place is known as Tapuwai Kainga. It was never ever a pa, which is a fortified village. The river itself is called Arohura, and I think because a group of Māoris lived here, it just became known as Arohura Pa. Growing up here was endless summer days spent swimming at the river and breaking into the old people's whitebait huts and cooking up kais and getting up to no good as teenagers. We were very close-knit and looked out for one another, which was really, really important, especially when we went to town. You know, when we were growing up, it was not uncommon to be called in town and be treated like second-class citizens. It's still quite overtly racist here on the West Coast. We jokingly call it the last little redneck vestige in the whole country. I think it's maybe fear of losing their identity or culture. It's quite sad really, because we're the ones that lost that. Māori lost their identity and culture here on the Taipōtini. We didn't even have a chance to be frightened of losing it. It just happened that quick, a generation, and it was gone.
Our tipuna's knowledge was oral, eh? We handed it down generation to generation through waiata, through kōrero, through tāmoko, through whakairo. Goats! Che. Oh, ue. And unfortunately, in a lot of places, some of that knowledge has been lost. Kōrero tatero Māori, I te au, I te pō, ke tonu e. I guess being raised on the West Coast, there wasn't much of an understanding of what it was to be Māori. My koro's generation was the generation that they were beaten. The next generation down were then stripped of a lot of that mātauranga, a lot of that knowledge, because their parents were forced to think Māoritanga was of no value. I guess for our people it was a struggle for a long time, whether it was internalised things or things that society pushed on us that suppressed a lot of our Māoritanga.
The cultural damage to Māori from colonisation was felt throughout Aotearoa. But while the gradual renaissance of te ao Māori around the rest of the country is decades old, on the coast the uneasy relationship between Māori and Pākehā has been much slower to change.
Thank you. Buddy.
When we moved here, my dad came to visit. My dad's Pākehā from Taranaki, and he said to me, "This is the friendliest place in the world." I walked down the main street and everyone's like, "Hey, good to meet you, and you, hey, can I help you with anything?" And I'm like, that is really cool, that's your experience, Dad. That is absolutely not my experience.
This is my whānau when Izzy and Taryn, our two oldest babies, were little. So my mum and dad, all of my siblings and our partners. We whakapapa through mum to Arahura Marae here. So this, in my mind, was coming home to where my whānau come from. It's where our bones are. That's my key, that my paua had made. I always thought keys were real cheesy, but as I get older, I'm like, yeah, that's my key, it's cool. I was really scared that when my taua and paua passed away, my kids would have no reason ever to come here because they didn't have a connection with this place. So it felt like a really good opportunity to come here and connect more closely with our marae, with our stories, with our whānau here. I did a year as a Haora Māori health provider. We did a project where we interviewed whānau across the coast to just get an idea of their experiences of raising tamariki Māori on the West Coast. I found that really heavy. There's this assumption, I think, in this community that Māori don't have anything good to offer. They are dull bludgers or bad parents. We're connected with all of those negative statistics. And I think part of that's just, there's been such an amazing growth in te ao Māori, and the coast, just because it's isolated, we just haven't been a part of that, I don't think. And so the community is still responding to like the 1930s, 1960s messages of who Māori are, and that was really hard and really confronting. And I guess that created the opportunity to go, well, if we want to stay here, what are the things that we need as a whānau to thrive?
Whakaro
was the case in so many small towns around Aotearoa, Māori communities of the West Coast were hard hit by the global unrest of the early 20th century. More loss for a community already struggling to keep their place on this whenua.
And it's a fantastic turnout this morning, and I'm proud to see it. When we do walk away from here, we will remember them. We will remember them, not just on this day, but moving forward for every day. Those men that left those little towns, Arahura, Hokitika, Woodstock, Ross, Whararoa, all these little towns became somewhat barren in a way. The sacrifices that not just the soldiers themselves made, but the sacrifices though that every wahine, every whānau back home had to make. We have our patrons along here that have been patrons all past. I've been part of the Hokitika Western RSA for around about now the last 31 years. I'm the president at the moment. Today here is an open day. People in the community coming in and having a look around. So down here I have my grandfather, my paua, who fought in the 28th Māori Battalion. Next to him is Uncle Tahuru, cousin of course, all fought over there in Gallipoli. So that there is very dear to me to have him actually in this building. Knowing what my grandfather had done, and then knowing my two uncles that went through the military, and of course so between that I joined the military. Not so much following his footsteps, but just representing my paua.
Ko rua tani whā te ingoa tō mātou urupa. This is ko tō mātou paua. James Hemi Mason, 67377, 2nd New Zealand Private 28th Māori Battalion. Obviously bits and pieces of stone have fallen out of there. And this is our kuia, our taua here, mai o ne kura kātene, ngā ruehine, maunga taranaki.
Despite the losses that had occurred of whenua, of reo, of whānau, the connections the people of Te Tai o Poutini had to the many awa and kōhatu here couldn't be broken.
My father's brothers and sisters, they've always been avid stone hunters. That's what sort of momo pounamu we get in this place here. I mean, obviously the homeland is the Arahura River. Yeah, that's where the heartbeat of our people is. But the Mason whānau, we walked in all the creeks, all the tributaries and that run off ka tiri o te moana, the Southern Alps, especially here on the West Coast. Whenever you're trying to piece together a collection of pounamu for sale, once you have all the Arahura stone laid out, being able to then get a couple of different pieces out of different creeks adds a little bit of colour to it. It's been traded a long time, taking it all the way up and down the coast. But it just didn't have that monetary value of what it has today. And the mana of it to our people was just like anything, just going out and harvesting what you needed. We didn't have to harvest it in great amounts because a mere pounamu was something that was going to be made over generations. Once a few more people ended up showing up here onto the coast, our tupuna found out straight away that once the steel showed up, we didn't have any use for toki, didn't have any use for those sorts of means, so we adapted quickly and moved out of the Stone Age days of working to what got brought out here on the ships. I got a bit inspired the other night and started drawing. I've been working on a commission piece. It was made from grey wiki. It is a wahaika. Traditionally, they were made from fish bones or whale bones. And then in modern times, when the steel tools and that arrived, we could transfer that to different mediums. So it didn't just have to be done out of wood or bone. And like our cousins over in the Chathams, they used to make them out of a similar sort of kohatu like this, because they don't have pounamu over there. I first moved up to Rotorua to Te Puia in 2011. Definitely a culture shock coming from here. Growing up, raised here on the west coast, it's pretty white. And then, going up to the heart of Māoritanga, it's, it was a big eye-opener. This is how pounamu was carved. For the Europeans, before steel tools and all that, diamond tools come around. Still use it, can't beat it. Stone on stone is the best. But I do cheat. I've got these diamond files. The way I was taught at Te Puia was with a traditional foundation, traditional base. All our modules are pieces, that date back to the 1800s, 1700s and that. We had to go through and research where they were found, what they were made from, what their function was, if they were functional or not, or just adornment. And then we had to recreate them, which was pretty cool. Once you get that foundation sorted, then you can put your own twist on stuff.
I've always felt, my connection to the whenua. That's why I tattooed my feet. These are my literal tree roots to the earth. So there's a fair bit of mahi that's done all over the place. From, mahi kaitiaki whenua, kaitiaki manu. I think we're all just looking for more connection, not only to te ao Māori, but te tai ao and where we fit.
Hautini Kaitahu were nomads, traversing the mountains, coasts and rivers for hundreds of years. Trading pounamu and collecting kai, they went where the seasons took them, often moving between semi-permanent settlements on both sides of ka tiritiri o te moana.
This roto is roto ua. So roto ua was named by the great captain of the Urua Waka, Rakai Hautu. So when Rakai Hautu came down here from the north, he got to this place on a day unlike today, obviously, because he called it roto ua, the rainy lake. These days it's referred to as Lake Manapori, but through the kōrero and study that I've found is that is the name of one of the specific bays, as opposed to the entire lake. And then our tipuna were some of the very first guides to guide some of the first European people in this area. Let's go. Before we came here, we were in Haast, in the house that my mother was raised in, that my grandfather built. We decided as a whānau that we wanted to bring up our kids in sort of a te ao Māori world, living with the whenua. It wasn't long after that this whānau offered to take us in. Hai ki te maka. So I've got my partner, and then we have our beautiful daughter, Whaiariki, and then we have our new pepe showing up in 2 weeks. Originally it was just us here. And then the call came down that my brother, Piriwiri Tua, was going to move down with us. And he's brought his beautiful wife and his little tamariki, te toro kahuraki a taia mai. And in that way, we're creating our own hapu with like-minded people on similar journeys. And we've all got that communal goal. As the whare, like my tipuna, like my ancestors, nomad, ko te whare tipi, te ingoa. We came down here with nothing, really. And it was luckily that my partner picked this caravan up. That's all we need. That's our warmth sort of tick. You know, our feet are always firm in the whenua, but we have so much of it to explore and so much of it to see. You know, I know a lot of people, you know, would look down on us condescendingly because we choose to live this life, but don't really care what they think. We're following in the footsteps of our tipuna and moving as the seasons go, and where the mahi or the mauri or all of that takes us. And we can put this anywhere.
It's really, really lovely to see you all for our community dinner. Thank you guys for coming and joining us. If people help the littlies first, that'd be really awesome. And if everyone can help with a bit of the clean-up, we'd be grateful.
For almost 150 years, Māori living on Te Tai o Poutini have struggled to maintain their place on this whenua. But now the fire has been lit, and the focus is on rebuilding a community that works together.
So Whare Manaaki o Te Tai Poutini is first and foremost a community space, a drop-in space where anyone is welcome at any time to come and connect.
Oh my goodness. Look at that beautiful dress. She is.
There is someone here who will greet you warmly at the door, who will offer you a cup of tea or coffee, and who will make time to have kōrero with you.
How's your week been?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, good week.
Yeah. I went fishing this morning.
Cool.
So we've been operating for almost 2 years now. And the space was the first part of it. It's a space for us as Māori to create what it is that we want to see in this community for ourselves. We do different cultural wānanga. We do rongoa Māori. We have whānau order navigators. We have emergency housing navigators. We do a program called Women of Worth, which is mana wahine. We have koanga kai and our mara. And then it's adaptable. You know, we don't want to have such a fixed program in place that we only have room for these things.
Would anybody like some apple sponge and whipped cream? No? Okay, I'll take it home.
We say to people we are a kaupapa Māori space for the entire community. And what that means is that we will do our best, with acknowledgement to the fact that we're all just learning, to provide a Māori space and access to Māori resources and mātauranga and learning, but everyone is welcome.
1, 2, 3, go!
Our priority is manaaki. We're whare manaaki o Te Tai Poutini, so manaaki is what it's about for us. So long as people maintain that one tikanga, they're welcome.
And the tides are definitely turning here on Te Tai o Poutini. In recent years, after almost a century and a half absence, 2 new marae have been built on the coast. For the people of Arahura, it marks the beginning of a new era.
Te tau rumano te kaumawha I huakina tō mātou tupuna whare. Year 10 years we've had our marae open. Because of that, you know, we've seen a lot of benefits and a lot of growths. We've seen how kei te tipu haere tō mātou reo. Kei te rongo hoki te tō mātou mito o kaitahu. Puta mai o mātou tamariki mokopuna. Hi wāhi hui huinga mō a tātou te kāhui kaumātu o konei. I think we're actually in quite a really, really good space at the moment. Being able to have a place where we can go to, where we can connect. Previously we've been in places like ngā horo, rugby club rooms and such, but now we're able to get up to the marae. Acknowledging where we've come from and where we are today and saying to our kids, you know, the days of surviving are over, you know, it's time for time for thriving. And always encourage our kids and our tamariki and our mokopuna to ascend to those stars, reach out, and go for it. Build your oyster.